Today is March 2nd, 2023, and I am getting a little bit scruffy. Got a couple more weeks to go. Today I want to talk about risk management. I know it's not the sexiest sounding topic ever, but it's a valuable skill to have and super important for life. So if you haven't heard, I don't think I've announced this on YouTube at all, but I got accepted to a flight program this summer. And so I'm going to go and learn how to fly a plane. And I actually started this program already. I'm doing the ground school portion, which is like all the technical knowledge you need to learn. And I have to pass a written exam before I go out there. And then this summer I'll go and actually do all the in-plane flying. So as I was reading this book on aviation, I noticed that a lot of the lessons in it for how to fly a plane are also very applicable to life. You could easily translate them into other situations. And the topic I was reading about the other day that just really struck me as valuable for life was risk management. And so the chapter in the book is all about like learning these procedures for how to deal with like dangerous, risky situations in an airplane. So statistically, it's safer to fly a plane than it is to drive a car, which intuitively doesn't really make sense. It's like if something goes wrong in a plane, that seems like it would be a lot worse than something going wrong in a car. But I think one of the reasons that flying is actually safer is due to the amount of knowledge that pilots are required to learn for flying, and also all of the procedures and checklists and everything like that that's involved in flying. It's like if there's any dangerous situation you can think of, there's a procedure for it. Like you can think of any situation you could imagine happening in a plane, any scenario, and there's some sort of process for dealing with that type of situation. And so I just thought that was really valuable, especially the way it was explained. So the first step in this risk management process is identifying hazards. So hazards could be anything that has a potential to cause a problem. So for flying, it could be weather or mechanical issues or pilot error. Like if you have a health condition such as poor vision or something like that, or you don't have the proper level of certification for the type of flying you're doing, those could all be hazards because they present risk. They insert risk into the situation. And so after you've identified these hazards, then you try and figure out the degree of risk that each one of these hazards causes or could potentially cause. So if if you see massive storm clouds forming in the distance and the weather report doesn't look good, that presents a major amount of risk because flying into that could easily end up in a disastrous situation. So identifying that level of risk can then help you understand how you're supposed to deal with it. And so once you've assessed that level of risk, then if it's pretty high and there's a high level that something could go wrong, then you have to find a way to mitigate that risk. So with the example of weather, you could decide not to fly, you could wait until the storm passes, you could get someone who has enough experience to fly in the type of weather that is there, or you could choose to drive somewhere. Like, you have to figure out some way of mitigating that risk so that it doesn't turn into a disaster. And so, yeah, that process just seems like it's would be very helpful to use in other areas of life. So anytime you have to make a big decision, you could say, okay, what are the hazards here? And then what degree of risk do these hazards introduce? And then what are the ways that I can mitigate that risk? Because oftentimes we have opportunities right now to mitigate risk ahead of time, and instead we just kind of plow ahead into things and end up in some sort of disastrous situation. I've talked about decisions before and how important it is to make good decisions. And I know from experience what making a bad decision can lead to. Just one small instant decision can lead to a lifetime of consequences. So having a procedure for dealing with risk so that you don't end up in one of those horrible, awful situations is just a really great idea. So I hope that's useful for you. Maybe not the most interesting topic, but I think it's valuable and hopefully will help you make good decisions. All right, that's all I got for today. Peace.